He wasn't the loudest man in the room. He didn't walk in like he owned the place, didn't throw his shoulders back like a movie character, didn't try to make the waiter laugh before the menu even opened. He just sat down, looked around once, put his phone face down, and started the conversation like he had nowhere to prove anything. That is the part most men miss. The quiet habits of attractive men are not flashy. They are almost boring at first glance, but women feel them immediately. Not because they are reading some perfect strategy, because the energy is clean. There is nothing desperate hiding under it. And when nothing is being forced, the room relaxes. That's where attraction starts. I remember watching a guy like this in a cafe on a rainy Thursday night. Nothing cinematic, just a small table by the window, the sound of cups, and the kind of place where everyone is pretending not to listen to anyone else. A woman arrived a few minutes late, not dramatically late. It's just enough to make the moment slightly awkward. Most men would fill that silence with nervous talk, or a joke that tries too hard, or some fake coolness like, "No worries, I was just getting a lot done anyway." He didn't. He smiled once, slow and real, then said, "You made it." That was it. No performance, no extra words, and weirdly, that line landed harder than a paragraph ever could. She laughed, but not because he was being funny, because he wasn't begging the moment to go well. He had already accepted it. That's attractive. A man who can hold a moment without rushing to decorate it. The first quiet habit is this. Attractive men do not over-explain themselves. They don't flood every silence with background noise. They answer what was asked. They don't defend every opinion like it's under attack. When they change plans, they say it once. When they are busy, they say it plainly. When they like a woman, they don't turn into a court reporter documenting every feeling. They leave space, and that space matters more than most men realize. Because a woman can feel when a man is trying to make himself understandable at all costs. That usually means he's anxious, but a man who speaks clearly and then stops, that feels stronger, not louder. Stronger, there's a difference. One feels like effort, the other feels like certainty. Watch what happens with his phone. This is a tiny detail, but women notice it in seconds. He does not keep checking it. He doesn't let the screen interrupt his presence every 30 seconds like he's waiting for a better life somewhere else. He sets it down, forgets it, and gives the moment his full attention. Not fake attention, real attention. He tracks her expressions. He notices the slight pause before she answers. He catches the tone shift when she talks about work, or her sister, or something that annoyed her earlier that day. Attractive men have this habit of paying attention without making a display of it. They do not announce, "I'm such a good listener." They just listen. And because they're not trying to impress her with attention, the attention itself feels rare. Here's the twist most men don't want to hear. Attractive men are often less eager than everyone else, and that lack of eagerness is exactly what makes them memorable, not cold, not detached. Just not hungry in a visible way. Hunger changes the temperature. People feel it. A man who needs the interaction to go well starts to hurry it, steer it, and force chemistry into existence. But the attractive man is already okay. He likes the interaction, sure, but he is not clinging to it like a life raft. That calm changes everything. It gives the woman room to lean in on her own, and when she leans in voluntarily, it lands deeper than anything pushed on her. Another habit is that attractive men move at a controlled pace. Not slow in a fake, theatrical way, just unhurried. They don't slam their drink down, they don't reach too fast, they don't stack gestures on top of gestures, they enter a room and let the room adjust to them. They order without apologizing. They walk with the kind of rhythm that says their body isn't being dragged around by their thoughts. That pace is not about looking dominant, it is about looking contained. That women read that as emotional safety. A man who can stay steady under small pressure usually looks like he could stay steady under bigger pressure too. And that's where attraction gets serious. Not from charm, from nervous systems, from the sense that being near him would not feel like chaos. You can see this most clearly when something goes slightly wrong. The waiter brings the wrong order, the table is too close to the noise. A friend interrupts. Most men reveal themselves right there. They get flustered, irritated, performative, sarcastic, and weirdly passive-aggressive. Attractive men do something much quieter. They adjust. Maybe they smile, maybe they fix it, maybe they just say, "No problem," and move on. That reaction tells a story. It says, "I am not fragile." And this is important because women are always, consciously or not, measuring how a man behaves when reality does not cooperate. A man who looks polished, only when everything is easy is not actually attractive. He is just styled. A man who stays composed when things get messy, that's different. That stays in her body after the conversation is over. There is also a habit in how attractive men touch life, not just people. They don't cling to every outcome. They can enjoy the moment without demanding it become a relationship, a status symbol, or a proof of worth. That's why they often feel more masculine in a real sense. Not because they are trying to dominate, because they are not leaking tension everywhere. There is a strange contradiction here. The less a man tries to control the outcome, the more control he seems to have. That's the part people don't understand. Real control is often invisible. It shows up in restraint, not force. In timing, not volume, in what he does not do. And yes, women notice the little habits. The way he doesn't interrupt. The way he finishes a sentence and lets it breathe. The way he doesn't smile, just to soften every edge. The way he can be warm without becoming available to everybody. Attractive men tend to have boundaries that are calm, not dramatic. They don't make a speech about their standards, they just live them. They answer late because they were actually doing something. They don't rearrange their entire day for attention. They don't overcommit in the beginning. That creates tension, but the good kind, the kind that makes people pay attention. Because consistency without self-abandonment is rare, and rarity gets noticed. One of the biggest hidden habits is that attractive men rarely try to win a woman in the moment. They try to connect. There's a difference. Winning is needy. It has a destination. Connection is present. It has patience. A man who is trying to win will start talking like every sentence is part of a case file. He will try to sound impressive. He will mention the right places, the right habits, the right opinions. But a man who is actually attractive knows that presence does more than resume energy ever will. He asks one good question and actually waits for the answer. He tells one small story and lets the humor come naturally. He doesn't pile on. That restraint is what makes the interaction feel adult, clean, safe, a little electric. And here's the part that gets most men in trouble. They assume attraction comes from adding more words, more compliments, more messages, more explaining, more trying. But the quiet habits of attractive men are built around subtraction. Fewer corrections, fewer excuses, fewer emotional leaks, fewer false smiles, fewer attempts to manufacture a reaction. They remove the noise, and what remains is the man. That's the whole game. Not becoming someone else. Becoming less contaminated by need. Because need has a smell. It spreads through posture, timing, and tone. Confidence does too, but it's quieter. It looks like a man who can sit still in his own skin. I've seen women lose interest in men who were technically doing everything right because the energy underneath was unstable. And I've seen women become visibly drawn to men who barely did anything because the quality of their presence was sharp. One man kept her laughing with big gestures and obvious effort, but she stayed polite. Another man barely spoke for the first few minutes, then made one dry comment, looked her in the eye, and went back to his drink. She was hooked for the rest of the night, not because he played games. Because he didn't hand her his nervous system in advance. He was still a person, still centered, still slightly out of reach in the healthiest way. That distance created interest, not fake distance, human distance, the kind that says, I am here, but I do not disappear into you. So when people talk about the habits of attractive men, they often get it backwards. It is not about chasing mystery, it is about removing panic. It is not about acting superior, it is about staying grounded. It is not about speaking less to seem deep, it is about speaking when there is something real to say. The quiet habits are subtle because the women who notice them are not reacting to the surface. They are reacting to the felt experience of being around a man who is not internally begging for approval. That changes everything. It changes eye contact. It changes timing. It changes the temperature in the room. And maybe that is the real twist. Attractive men are not quiet because they have nothing to offer. They are quiet because they are not trying to sell it. They know who they are, so they do not need to keep announcing it. That is why they stand out. In a world full of noise, the man who can be calm becomes unforgettable. And if this hit a little too close to real life, like it happened in a room you have already been in, then like the video, leave a comment with the one quiet habit you think changes attraction the most, and share this with a friend who still thinks loud is the same thing as strong. Because the final truth is simple. Women do not fall for the man who tries hardest, they fall for the man who feels most at ease while not trying at all.